3 years had passed. Since the day I fulfilled my grandfather's final promise, the old pocket watch still rested on my desk. Beside it, Thomas's watch and Noah's notebook. Every morning, before leaving for work, I wound both watches, not because they needed me, but because some memories deserved to keep ticking. Life had become peaceful. No more hidden letters. No more forgotten soldiers. No more impossible journeys. At least, that's what I believed. One rainy Tuesday morning, a small envelope appeared in our mailbox. No stamp, no return address, no name, just one word, written neatly across the front. Lucas. I frowned. Did someone leave this here? Noah looked outside. The street was empty, only the sound of rain, falling softly on the pavement. The envelope felt unusually light. Inside, there wasn't a letter. There wasn't any explanation. Only a single photograph. Old, faded, its edges worn by time. The picture showed a young boy, no older than 12, standing in front of a weathered farmhouse. His clothes were simple, his smile almost forced. Behind him, the old house leaned slightly to one side. Several windows were broken. The roof had begun to collapse. It looked abandoned, yet someone still lived there. I turned the photograph over. Only one sentence had been written, in the same elegant handwriting I had seen so many times before. The watch still has one final kindness to give. My heart skipped. It couldn't be. Grandpa had passed away years ago. Every hidden letter had already been found. Every promise had already been kept, hadn't it? Noah carefully took the photograph. He stared at the old farmhouse. His expression slowly changed. Dad, I've seen this house before. I looked at him. Where? He pointed toward an old family album, still sitting on the bookshelf. We opened the album together, page after page. Old black and white photographs. Grandpa, Thomas, Daniel, Peter. Then, near the very back, one photograph stopped us both. The same farmhouse. Only, it wasn't abandoned. Flowers filled the front yard. Children laughed on the porch. 6 young soldiers stood together, smiling proudly. One of them was Michael Ross. I remembered Peter's stories. Michael had dreamed of becoming an artist. He loved painting. He believed every family deserved a beautiful home. But after the war, no one ever spoke about him again. Noah compared both photographs. They're the same place. The tree, the porch, the chimney, everything matched. Except one thing. The home that had once been full of life now looked forgotten. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about the photograph. Who sent it? Why now? And what did Grandpa's words mean? One final kindness. Not one final promise. Kindness. The difference felt important. Before going to bed, I wound Grandpa's pocket watch. As I closed the lid, something unusual happened. The second hand stopped. Exactly. At cinque, 0. The same time, every journey in our family story had begun. I smiled quietly. All right, Grandpa. I think I understand. The next morning, Noah and I packed the car once again. Neither of us knew that this journey wouldn't uncover another secret. Instead, it would give someone else a brand new beginning. The drive took nearly 4 hours. Neither Noah nor I spoke very much. The photograph rested on the dashboard. Every few minutes, I'd glance at it. The young boy's eyes held a sadness that was impossible to ignore. It reminded me of someone who had learned to smile, even when carrying pain. The narrow country road eventually ended. A weathered wooden sign appeared. Rosewood Valley, the same name, written beneath Michael Ross's photograph in Grandpa's old album. Noah looked at me. Dad, we're in the right place. The farmhouse stood exactly where the photograph had shown. Time had not been kind to it. The white paint had almost disappeared. The porch sagged dangerously. Several fence posts had fallen. Yet, someone had planted fresh flowers beside the front steps. Someone still cared. As we stepped from the car, the front door slowly opened. An elderly woman appeared. Her gray hair was tied neatly behind her head. She studied us carefully. Then, her eyes settled on Grandpa's pocket watch. A look of recognition crossed her face. You knew Richard Carter. It wasn't a question. It was certainty. I nodded. He was my grandfather. The woman smiled sadly. I wondered if someone from his family would ever come. Before I could answer, a young boy stepped out from behind her. He looked exactly like the child in the photograph. Quiet, thin, curious. He couldn't have been older than 12. "This is my grandson," she said softly. "Ethan." The boy gave us a shy smile. "Hello." Noah smiled back immediately. "I'm Noah." Within seconds, the two boys were talking as if they'd known each other for years. The elderly woman invited us inside. The house was old, but spotless. Every chair had been repaired. Every curtain had been sewn by hand. The walls were covered with paintings, landscapes, mountains, wildflowers, children playing. Each one signed, M. Ross. I stopped in front of one painting, a family sitting together at sunset. It felt warm, peaceful, hopeful. "Did Michael paint these?" The woman nodded. "My grandfather. He painted whenever he could, but almost no one ever saw his work." She carefully placed 4 cups of tea on the table, then quietly said, "My name is Eleanor. I'm Michael Ross's granddaughter." For a moment, the room fell silent. Another family, another forgotten branch of the promise. Eleanor reached into an old cabinet. She removed a small wooden frame. Inside was a photograph of Michael, older now, his military uniform replaced by paint-stained overalls. He was smiling, holding a paintbrush, standing beside this very farmhouse. "He survived the war," she whispered, "but part of him never came home." I remembered Peter's words. Michael had dreamed of becoming an artist. Now, looking around the room, I realized he never stopped dreaming. Even after everything he had endured, Ethan quietly looked toward the floor. "I wish I could paint like him." His grandmother smiled gently. "You already do." He shook his head. "No." I had to stop. I looked at him. "Why?" He hesitated, then answered, almost too quietly to hear. "We can't afford art supplies anymore." The words hit me harder than I expected, not because of what he said, but because of how calmly he said it, as though he had already accepted it. I looked toward Noah. He was thinking the exact same thing. Just before we left that evening, Eleanor handed me a small, dust-covered sketchbook. "I think Michael would have wanted your family to have this." Across the faded leather cover, written in Michael's handwriting, were 7 simple words. "For the child who still believes in beauty." I slowly opened the first page, and immediately realized this wasn't just a sketchbook. It was the beginning of another story Grandpa had hoped someone would finish. I carefully opened the old sketchbook. The pages were worn, their corners softened by time, yet every drawing inside looked as if it had been created yesterday. Mountains, lakes, children laughing, families holding hands. Every sketch seemed to tell a story, without using a single word. On the first page, Michael had written one sentence: "If these drawings ever make someone smile, then my dream survived." I closed my eyes for a moment. A man who had survived war had never dreamed of becoming famous. He had simply wanted to bring beauty into someone else's life. Noah slowly turned another page. There were dozens of unfinished paintings. Some were only rough pencil sketches. Others were almost complete. One drawing caught my attention immediately. It showed 6 young men standing beneath a giant oak tree, each one smiling, each one carrying a pocket watch. Across the bottom, Michael had written, "Home isn't a place, it's the people who wait for you." Ethan stared at the sketch. "My great-grandfather really drew this?" Eleanor smiled. "He drew it the year after the war," he said. "He never wanted to forget their faces." As we continued looking through the sketchbook, a folded piece of paper slipped onto the floor. I picked it up carefully. It wasn't a letter. It was an invitation, yellow with age. Rosewood Valley Community Art Exhibition. Spring Festival. Guest artist, Michael Ross. The date had been nearly 60 years earlier. Across the invitation, someone had stamped one word in red ink: "Canceled." Why was it canceled? I asked quietly. Eleanor lowered her head. The town hall burned down 2 days before the exhibition. Most of Michael's paintings were destroyed in the fire. He never held another exhibition. The room became silent. Michael hadn't lost his dream because of the war alone. He had lost the one chance to share it with the world. Ethan quietly walked to the attic stairs. "There's something I want to show you." We followed him upstairs. The attic was filled with old wooden boxes. Dust floated through the afternoon sunlight. In one corner, covered by a faded blanket, stood several large canvases, still wrapped in cloth. Ethan carefully uncovered one, then another, and another. Color filled the room. Beautiful landscapes, portraits, sunsets, fields of wildflowers. More than 50 paintings, hidden away for decades. Noah stood speechless. "Dad, these are incredible." Even Eleanor looked surprised. "I thought they were all destroyed." Ethan smiled shyly. "Grandpa hid these before the fire. He told my grandmother to never sell them." I looked around the attic. These weren't just old paintings. They were a lifetime of hope, waiting for someone to notice. For the first time, I understood the message on the anonymous photograph. The pocket watch hadn't led us here to uncover another secret. It had led us here to rescue a forgotten dream. As we carefully examined the final canvas, a small envelope slipped from behind the wooden frame. Unlike Grandpa's letters, this one wasn't addressed to me. Across the front, in Michael Ross's handwriting, were 7 simple words. "To whoever gives my paintings new life." I slowly held the envelope in my hands. Somehow, I knew the greatest part of Michael's story was only beginning. I looked at the old envelope. Its edges were brittle. The paper had yellowed with time. Across the front, Michael had written only one sentence. "Open this on the day my dream finally comes true." I wasn't sure if today was that day, but somehow it felt right. I carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small folded sketch. The drawing showed the same old farmhouse, but this time its walls were freshly painted. Children filled the front yard. Flowers bloomed beneath every window. Across the bottom, Michael had written, "A home is most beautiful when hope lives inside it." I unfolded the letter. "Dear friend, if you're reading this, then my paintings have finally found people who can see more than colors. Thank you. Every painting I created was never about landscapes. It was about people finding hope again." I paused. Those words sounded exactly like Grandpa Richard. Different men, the same heart. Michael continued, "If these paintings are ever displayed, please don't hang them to make people admire me. Hang them so someone who has lost hope might believe again. If even one person smiles, then my dream will have come true." No one in the room spoke. Even Sarah, who had spent her career surrounded by famous artists, quietly wiped away a tear. "I've restored masterpieces," she whispered, "but I've never restored a dream." Sarah carefully examined each painting. She photographed every canvas, measured every frame, then finally turned toward me. "Lucas, I'd like to organize an exhibition. A real one." The exhibition Michael never got to have. Eleanor covered her mouth. "You mean people would actually come?" Sarah smiled. "They won't come because these paintings are expensive. They'll come because this story deserves to be told." For the first time, Ethan's face lit up. A genuine smile, the kind children wear when they begin believing tomorrow might be better than today. He quietly asked, "Do you think my great-grandfather would be happy?" I placed my hand on his shoulder. "I think he already is." Over the next few weeks, volunteers arrived from every corner of the town. Old frames were repaired. Dust was gently removed. Every painting was carefully restored. Neighbors who had never spoken before worked side by side. Some donated lights. Others built display stands. Even the local bakery offered food. For the opening day, without realizing it, Michael's dream was already bringing people together. The night before the exhibition, I returned alone to the farmhouse. Grandpa's pocket watch rested in my hand. The old house was quiet. Moonlight shone through the attic window. As I looked toward the wall, something caught my eye. Behind the largest painting, a section of the wooden wall looked newer than the rest, almost as if someone had hidden something there. I stepped closer, ran my fingers across the wood. then heard a soft, hollow sound. I looked down at Grandpa's pocket watch. Its second hand had stopped once again. Exactly. A chinch, 0. And somehow, I knew Michael had left behind one final gift. The second hand stopped exactly at 5 o'clock, just as it always had. I looked at Grandpa's pocket watch. Then, at the wooden wall behind Michael's largest painting, the silence inside the farmhouse felt strangely familiar, almost as if someone was waiting. I carefully lifted the painting from the wall. It was heavier than I expected. Behind it, the wooden boards looked different. One section had newer nails. The wood wasn't as weathered. Someone had sealed it. Many years ago, I called Noah upstairs. Within minutes, Sarah, Eleanor, and Ethan joined us. No one spoke. We all sensed something important had been hidden there. Using a small pry bar, I gently removed the first wooden plank. Dust filled the air. Another plank, then another. Finally, a narrow opening appeared. Inside, there was a small room, barely large enough for one person. Eleanor gasped. I never knew this existed. Neither had Ethan. For decades, the hidden room had remained untouched, protected by silence. I switched on a flashlight. The beam revealed shelves covered with cloth, wooden boxes, paint brushes, glass jars filled with dried paint, and dozens of rolled canvases, perfectly preserved. Michael's private studio, hidden for nearly 70 years. Sarah stood frozen. This is unbelievable. She slowly unrolled one canvas, then another. Portrait, children, families, fields after the rain, sunsets over quiet lakes. Every painting carried warmth, not sadness, not war, hope. Near the back of the room, a wooden easel still stood. An unfinished painting rested upon it, only half completed. A young boy, standing beneath a large oak tree, looking toward the sunrise. On the corner of the canvas, Michael had written one sentence: "Every child deserves tomorrow." Ethan couldn't take his eyes off it. He painted me, he whispered, then shook his head. No, he painted the child he hoped would come someday. I walked toward an old wooden desk. A leather notebook rested there, different from Grandpa's journals, different from Thomas's letters. This one belonged to Michael alone. The first page read, "Ideas I never had time to finish." As I turned the pages, I realized Michael had planned to build something far greater than paintings. He dreamed of opening a free art school for children who couldn't afford one. He had even drawn the classrooms, the gardens, the library, the tiny studio where every child would receive their first paintbrush. But the dream had ended before it ever began. Sarah slowly closed the notebook, then looked at me. "Lucas, we can't let this stay a dream." Noah nodded immediately. "What if we build it?" The room became completely silent. Even Ethan looked surprised. Before anyone could answer, a small key slipped from between the notebook's pages. Attached to it was a faded paper tag. In Michael's handwriting, only 6 words appeared. For the door still waiting outside, I looked around the hidden studio. There was only one door, but somehow, I knew the key didn't belong here. It belonged to the next chapter of Michael's dream. The tiny brass key rested quietly in my palm. It looked ordinary, old, scratched, almost forgotten. Yet Michael had protected it for nearly 70 years. Attached to it, the faded tag still read, "For the door still waiting outside." Noah looked around the hidden studio. "There isn't another door in here." Sarah nodded. "Whatever this key opens, it's somewhere else." The next morning, Eleanor suddenly remembered something. "There is one place we've never entered." She looked toward the backyard. Beyond the old apple trees, half hidden by overgrown vines, stood a small brick building. Everyone in town called it the old storage shed. No one had opened it. Since Michael passed away, the path leading there was almost invisible. Grass covered the stones. Wildflowers had grown through the cracks. Nature had quietly protected the place for decades. When we reached the old wooden door, I immediately noticed the lock. Small, brass, exactly the same color as the key in my hand. I took a deep breath. then slowly inserted it. Click. The lock opened effortlessly, as if it had been waiting for us all along. The door creaked open. Sunlight streamed inside. Dust floated through the air. The room wasn't a storage shed at all. It was a classroom. Small wooden desks, tiny chairs, shelves lined with empty paint jars. An old chalkboard still hung on the wall. Across it, written in fading white chalk, were 4 simple words: "Welcome, future young artists." Ethan stood frozen. He really built it. Sarah quietly nodded. He did. He just never got the chance to open it. At the front of the classroom, an easel held one unfinished canvas. Unlike the others, this painting had never been started. Only a blank white surface. Leaning against it was a handwritten note. "The first child who walks through this door will paint the first picture. This school belongs to them, Michael Ross." No one could speak. Michael hadn't built this room for himself. He had built it for children he would never meet. Noah looked at Ethan, then quietly picked up an old paintbrush. He handed it to him. "I think your great-grandfather has been waiting for you." Ethan hesitated. "I've never painted on a real canvas." I smiled. Neither had Michael. Before he painted his first one, with trembling hands, Ethan dipped the brush into a small jar of restored blue paint. He carefully painted a single sunrise across the center of the blank canvas. No masterpiece, just one simple sunrise. Yet somehow, it filled the entire room with hope. Eleanor began crying softly. Sarah smiled through tears. Even Noah couldn't hide his emotions. At that moment, Michael's dream finally came true. Not because a museum displayed his paintings, not because people knew his name, but because a child who had almost given up had started dreaming again. As we prepared to leave, I noticed a wooden box beneath the teacher's desk. Inside were 24 brand new paintbrushes, still wrapped in paper. Beside them, a sealed envelope. Across the front, Michael had written, "Open only when the classroom is full again." I gently placed the envelope back inside. Some promises weren't meant to be rushed. They were meant to wait for the right moment. 2 months later, the old community hall was transformed into an art gallery, the same kind of exhibition Michael Ross had dreamed of. Nearly 70 years ago, this time, nothing would stop it. Volunteers arrived before sunrise. Neighbors carried paintings. Students cleaned windows. Local carpenters built wooden display stands. Even people from nearby towns offered to help. None of them had ever met Michael, yet somehow, his dream had already begun bringing strangers together. Sarah carefully hung the final painting. She stepped back, smiled, then quietly whispered, "Welcome back, Michael." Outside, a line of visitors stretched around the building. No one expected such a crowd. Families, teachers, artists, veterans, children. People had come, not because the paintings were famous, but because they had heard the story. At the entrance, a simple wooden sign read, "Michael Ross, the dream that waited 70 years." Beneath it, another sentence, "Admission is free. Kindness is welcome." Ethan stood beside the doorway, wearing a clean white shirt. His hands trembled. "I've never seen this many people." Noah smiled. "They're here to meet your great-grandfather." As visitors walked through the gallery, something remarkable happened. No one hurried. People stood quietly, studying every painting, reading every handwritten note. Some smiled. Others cried. Children pointed toward the colorful landscapes. Older visitors simply closed their eyes, remembering. Near the center of the gallery hung Michael's unfinished masterpiece, "Every Child Deserves Tomorrow." Beside it, Ethan's Sunrise, the first painting created. Inside Michael's classroom, the two canvases looked perfect together. One dream, completed by another generation. Late that afternoon, a well-dressed elderly gentleman approached Sarah. He introduced himself. "My name is William Hayes. I represent the National Museum of American Art." Sarah looked surprised. "So you've come to evaluate the paintings?" William smiled gently. "No, I've come to preserve a legacy." He spent nearly 2 hours walking through the exhibition, looking carefully at every brushstroke, every journal, every photograph. When he finished, he turned toward Eleanor. "Mrs. Ross, these paintings belong to your family, but I'd like to ask permission to create a permanent exhibition so Michael Ross will never be forgotten again." Eleanor couldn't answer. She simply nodded as tears filled her eyes. For 70 years, Michael had believed his dream had ended. Today, the world had finally answered. Before leaving, William quietly handed Ethan a scholarship application. "Our museum supports young artists. I think your great-grandfather would want you to have this opportunity." Ethan stared at the paper, his voice barely above a whisper. "You mean I could study art?" William smiled. "I believe you already have." That evening, as the last visitors left, a volunteer rushed toward me. "Lucas, you should come outside." Standing across the street were dozens of children, each holding a small painting they had created. After visiting the exhibition, one little girl stepped forward. She handed Ethan her drawing. It showed the old farmhouse, bright, colorful, full of flowers. Across the bottom, she had written, "Thank you, Mr. Michael." At that moment, I realized Michael Ross's greatest masterpiece had never been hanging on a wall. It was the hope he had quietly planted in the hearts of children he would never live to meet. And yet, one final surprise still waited for us. The exhibition ended, but Michael's story had only just begun. For weeks afterward, letters arrived from across the country. Teachers, artists, veterans, parents. Many shared how the exhibition had inspired them. Others simply wrote, "Thank you." One afternoon, Sarah rushed into my office. She could barely contain her excitement. "Lucas, you need to see this." She handed me an envelope. It carried the seal of the National Museum of American Art. Inside was an official proposal, not to purchase the paintings, but to help restore Michael's old classroom. The museum offered funding. Local businesses volunteered supplies. Retired carpenters offered their time. Professional artists promised to teach classes. Without accepting a single dollar, one forgotten dream was bringing an entire community together. 3 months later, construction finally began. The broken windows were replaced. The old wooden floor was repaired. Fresh white paint covered the walls. Every desk was carefully restored. Even the old chalkboard remained. No one wanted to erase Michael's original message. "Welcome, future young artists." Ethan visited every afternoon after school. He helped sand the desks, paint the shelves, plant flowers outside the entrance. One evening, I found him standing alone inside the classroom. "What are you thinking?" I asked. He smiled quietly. "I wish my great-grandfather could see this." I looked around the room. "I think he already can." Opening day finally arrived. More than 100 children filled the classroom. Some had never held a paintbrush before. Others had never owned a box of crayons. Every child received a small wooden case. Inside were paints, brushes, sketchbooks, everything they needed, free of charge. Exactly as Michael had dreamed. Before the first lesson began, Eleanor walked to the front of the room, holding the old envelope we had found beneath the teacher's desk, the one marked, "Open only when the classroom is full again." She smiled through tears. "I think this is the day." She carefully opened it. Inside was one final handwritten letter. "Dear children, if you're sitting in this room, then my dream has finally become yours. Don't worry about becoming a great artist. Instead, become someone who notices beauty where others see nothing. Paint your family, paint your neighbors, paint kindness, because the most beautiful picture is the one that gives hope to another heart." The classroom was silent. Several parents quietly wiped away tears. Even the youngest children listened carefully, though they couldn't fully understand. They somehow felt every word. After the letter, Eleanor reached into the envelope once more. Inside were 24 small brass pins, each shaped like a tiny paintbrush. On the back, Michael had engraved 4 simple words: keep creating, keep caring. Every child received one, not as a prize, but as a promise. As the children began painting, laughter filled the room, color-covered blank pages. Dreams quietly returned, one brushstroke at a time. I looked toward Grandpa's pocket watch. It was still ticking, steady, peaceful, as though Richard had known all along that this was the final kindness Michael had hoped to give the world. Just before we locked the classroom that evening, Noah noticed something unusual. Behind Michael's old teacher's desk, a faded photograph had slipped onto the floor. It showed all 6 soldiers, older now, standing together, several years after the war. On the back, someone had written only one sentence: "We promised to change 6 lives. We never imagined it would become thousands." I smiled. For the first time, I truly understood. A single promise can become a legacy, and a single act of kindness can hecho for generations. 1 year later, the little classroom was no longer quiet. Every afternoon, children filled it with laughter. Paint covered tiny hands, color covered blank canvases, and dreams filled every corner of the room. Michael Ross's school had finally come to life. The old farmhouse had changed too. The broken fence was repaired. Fresh flowers lined the front porch. The walls were painted once again. People passing through Rosewood Valley no longer called it the abandoned house. They called it Michael's House of Hope. Ethan had grown taller, more confident. His paintings now hung beside his great-grandfather's, not because they were perfect, but because they carried the same message: hope, kindness, family. One afternoon, a young girl entered the classroom. She stood quietly near the doorway, holding only a pencil. Her mother apologized softly. "I'm sorry, we couldn't afford the art supplies." Before she could finish, Ethan walked over. He opened one of Michael's wooden boxes. Inside still rested dozens of untouched paintbrushes. He smiled. "My great-grandfather bought these for children exactly like me." Then he handed her the very first brush. Watching from across the room, I felt my eyes fill with tears. Years ago, Michael had dreamed of helping children. Now, one child was continuing that dream without anyone asking him to. That evening, Noah joined me on the farmhouse porch. The sunset painted the sky with shades of gold and crimson. He held Grandpa Richard's pocket watch. He held Thomas's. Neither of us spoke. The watches ticked together, perfectly in time. Noah finally smiled. "Dad, I used to think Grandpa left us. A mystery to solve." I looked toward the classroom. Children were still laughing inside. "No, he left us. A reason to keep helping people." A few weeks later, the National Museum opened a permanent exhibition, not only for Michael Ross, but for all 6 friends: Richard Carter, Thomas Hale, Daniel Brooks, Michael Ross, Samuel Cooper, Bader Grant. At the entrance, visitors stopped before a bronze plaque. It read, "6 ordinary men, whose kindness became a legacy." Near the exit, one display attracted every visitor. Inside a glass case rested 2 old pocket watches, Richard's and Thomas's. Beside them, a small brass paintbrush pin, a child's sketchbook, and one handwritten sentence: "A promise kept with love never truly ends." Years later, when Ethan became an art teacher, he never removed Michael's chalkboard. Every first day of class, he wrote the same 4 words: "Welcome, future young artists." Then he would tell his students a story, not about war, not about medals, not about heroes, but about 6 ordinary friends who believed one act of kindness could change someone's future. One spring morning, my granddaughter walked into my study. She picked up Grandpa's pocket watch. "Grandpa, will this watch ever stop?" I smiled. "One day, the watch will." She looked surprised. "But the promise?" I gently placed the watch into her hands. "The promise will only stop the day people stop choosing kindness." She held it carefully, then nodded. "I'll keep it going." As she ran outside, laughing toward the old farmhouse, I looked up at the evening sky. For a brief moment, I imagined 6 young soldiers standing beneath a great oak tree, smiling, watching another generation carry their dream forward. Perhaps that was the true purpose of Grandpa's pocket watch, not to reveal hidden secrets, not to lead treasure hunts, but to remind every generation that the greatest inheritance is a kind heart, and the greatest promise is helping someone without expecting anything in return.